live in interesting times. Today's stories. Protesters demonstrate against Venezuela's Maduro in Spain. More than 200,000 people rallied against billionaire Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš.
Střet zájmu, jeho lži, jeho podvrhy.
Bolivia's Interpol says 226 Cuban doctors are returning to their country.
La cantidad exacta seguramente vamos a ir viendo a medida que...
Bolivian vendors worry as roadblocks cause food supply shortage.
En un 90% de la ciudad de La Paz.
Find out how Russia's foster children are saving dying villages.
Когда есть школа, она живет. Если в деревне...
On President Trump's impeachment, Representative Swalwell says Mark Sandy, I quote, cooperated and answered all the questions during a closed-door hearing.
This investigation is, most importantly, about $391 million.
Ousted U.S. envoy voices, I quote, grave concerns during Trump's impeachment hearing.
Department leadership to push back as foreign and corrupt interests apparently.
Trump says he shouldn't be impeached and has the right to speak.
I think it's considered a joke all over Washington and all over the world.
Plus, a survivor and some parents recount the horror of Saugus High School shooting.
I can't put it into words, and I know how these other parents must feel because
This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C., bringing you stories from around the globe. I'm Ace Ramirez. Thousands of supporters of Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido took to the streets of Caracas on Saturday, demanding the departure of embattled President Nicolas Maduro, but the turnout was far less than expected.
Sí, es una concentración a nivel mundial. En todos los países, todos los venezolanos que podemos, pues estamos reunidos porque en Venezuela hoy es la marcha que dice, la marcha que no tiene fin, vamos a decir, o sea, desde hoy hasta que no hay vuelta atrás, ¿no?
Bolivia dio, porque hay que ver el ejemplo que dio esta gente. Mira cómo están aquí más bolivianos que venezolanos en una concentración de Venezuela. Un llamado de los venezolanos a una marcha del 16 de noviembre. ¿Dónde está mi gente de Venezuela? ¿Ah? Entonces los que están allá salen huyen de la dictadura y llegan aquí, ya están cómodos, ya se olvidan de mi país. Qué bonito. Me perdonan la expresión, pero me siento indignado.
En Bolivia lo que pasa que nuestro gobierno, ex gobierno, Evo Morales, pues supuestamente se ha visto que hicieron un fraude electoral ahí. Entonces, ahí hubo la convulsión y es por lo que el pueblo está levantado. Entonces, estamos nosotros apoyando que tienen el mismo sistema que este partido político tiene el mismo sistema que en Venezuela. Entonces,
Guaido had hoped to capitalize on the situation in Bolivia, where leftist leader Evo Morales resigned in the face of accusations of election fraud, to deal a death blow to his own political nemesis. Opposition demonstrators did answer the call. About 5,000 of them marched. They carried national flags and banners with slogans such as, I quote, Maduro out and follow Bolivia's example. Guaido, who is recognized as Venezuela's acting president by about 50 countries, told crowds of supporters gathered in front of Bolivia's embassy, and I quote, "We are not going to falter." He said, and I quote, "Bolivia took 18 days. We have been at it for years. I ask all of Venezuela to keep protesting. The struggle is until the takeover ends, until free elections are achieved." 36-year-old Guaido, the head of the opposition-dominated National Assembly, has thus far failed to capitalize on early momentum built after he declared himself the crisis-racked country's acting president in January. His camp believes that the 2018 elections, which returned Maduro to office, were undermined by fraud. The opposition chief has urged the leftist leader, the political heir of late President Hugo Chavez, to call new elections. The numbers of protesters on Saturday was a far cry from the tens of thousands Guaido once rallied, but it was the opposition's biggest rally since May after a failed uprising. More than 200,000 people rallied against billionaire Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš on the eve of the 30th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, which toppled the communist regime in former Czechoslovakia in 1989. The organizers of the rally have called on Babiš to either resolve his conflict of interest as a politician and entrepreneur, which is being probed by the European Commission, or resign.
Jeho obrovský střet zájmu, jeho lži, jeho podvrhy, je toho strašně moc. Není to čestný člověk.
Tak tady pan Babiš, no nelíbí se mi, že někdo, kdo je z bývalého režimu, by měl zastupovat naše lidi. Být ve vládě a rozhodovat o důležitých věcech. A navíc teda ještě rozkrádat takhle veřejně a vysmívat se lidem.
Já si myslím, že je ve velkém ohrožení, protože je tady spousta lidí, kteří se snaží tu demokracii pokřivit a nastavit si ji podle svých vlastních pravidel, ale tak to být nemá určitě.
Aby byla respektována a uskutečňována.
Head of Interpol in Santa Cruz, Colonel Rolando Millares, said 226 Cuban doctors are returning to their country. But it is still unknown how many more Cubans will leave Bolivia, following weeks of turmoil in Bolivia and the resignation of Evo Morales.
Está partiendo con esta 226 personas y así de esta manera.
Reitero, son 226 ciudadanos cubanos, médicos, todos médicos, ya que están regresando a su país. El resto, la cantidad exacta, seguramente vamos a ir viendo a medida que nos proporcionen los listados y los datos y la información y el día que van a salir. Voy a coordinar con el consulado cubano ya para los siguientes traslados. Todavía no sabemos la cantidad, el día que se va a organizar esa comitiva para su traslado y regreso a su país. De acuerdo al informe del cónsul, me dicen que acá Santa Cruz se están concentrando del resto del país para poder partir desde acá, desde el aeropuerto Viru hacia su país.
Meanwhile, the roadblocks in La Paz, Bolivia, formed in the latest political crisis, have prevented a consistent supply of food, including basic products such as eggs and meat, from reaching vendors. Bolivian citizens and merchants worry as prices increase. Here's what they have to say.
Los mercados están vacíos en un 90% de la ciudad de La Paz. Esperemos de que la presidenta Yanine Yaníquez solucione de una vez por todas y que hable con esas bases que son las comunidades originarias.
Sí, estamos mal estamos, así estamos viviendo también. Una preocupación es para nosotros.
Estamos como una semana ya con escasez de carne, de pollo, de todo tipo de carne. La escasez ya se ha notado en esta semana más que todo.
Los precios se han cuatriplicado. El plátano si antes costaba a 9, ahora está en 16, la papaya si estaba en 4, ahora está en 15.
In other news, foster children have become a lifeline for rural Russian communities facing a slow death from unemployment and precipitous population decline, followed by closures of schools and clinics. In the Brody Village School, there are 36 pupils, including 13 foster children. In areas of chronic unemployment like Novgorod, the rural region between Moscow and St. Petersburg, where Brody is located, the compensation that comes with fostering a child is considerable, at nearly 6,000 rubles a month or $93.
Да. Ну а в деревне, что в деревне, когда есть дети и когда есть школа, она живет. Если в деревне есть детский сад, школа, пункт фельдшерский, дом культуры, магазины, значит, деревня не умирает. А если посмотреть, некоторые дети оказались в детских домах, ну, по сути дела, по вине взрослых, потому что работать было негде. Ну, кто-то спивал, кто-то воровал. И тогда было очень много детей в детских домах, и какой-то шаг был сделан, чтобы их устроить в семьи.
А здесь было принято решение в связи с тем, что да, местного населения становилось меньше, отток был в большие города, поэтому было принято решение, чтобы сохранить школу, сохранить прежде всего работоспособный профессиональный коллектив, вот, взять деток в приемные семьи.
То, видимо, потом 90-е и начало 2000-х у государства, как всегда, стало не хватать средств на содержание детских домов. У нас же сейчас не хватает средств на многие дела хорошие. Вот. И поэтому такая идея появилась сверху, чтобы детей из детских домов, еще раз повторяю,
Up next, on President Trump's impeachment, Representative Swalwell says Mark Sandy, I quote, cooperated and answered all the questions during a closed-door hearing. Ousted U.S. envoy voices, I quote, grave concerns during Trump's impeachment hearing. Trump says he shouldn't be impeached and has the right to speak. Plus, survivors and parents recount the horror of Saugus High School shooting. Eagle News will be right back. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C. I'm Ace Ramirez. U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell said senior official at the Office of Management and Budget, Mark Sandy, I quote, cooperated and answered all the questions during a closed-door hearing in the impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump on Capitol Hill.
It's with gratitude that we want to thank Mr. Sandy for coming in today, providing useful testimony. And as always, when witnesses come in, we learn more, and today we learn more because Mr. Sandy honored his duty to cooperate in our investigations. Mr. Sandy's testimony broadly relates to the hold that the administration placed on security assistance to Ukraine. I'm not going to go into what he testified to, but this investigation is most importantly about $391 million in taxpayer dollars that was leveraged to ask the Ukrainians to investigate the president's political opponent. And I'll just say he cooperated and answered all of the questions that we had, and we learned more about this investigation. And actually, as a former prosecutor, what is remarkable about this investigation is that it is almost entirely driven by witness accounts, oral witness accounts.
Marie Yovanovitch, the ousted U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, said Friday that a tweet by President Donald Trump attacking her while she testified before the House of Representatives impeachment inquiry was, I quote, very intimidating.
Well, it's very intimidating.
It's designed to intimidate, is it not?
I mean, I can't speak to what the president is trying to do, but I think the effect is to be intimidating.
President Trump attacked Yovanovitch as she was testifying in the House Intelligence Committee about her abrupt recall from Ukraine following that she called, and I quote, a smear campaign by Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal attorney, and corrupt Ukrainians. Trump alleged in a tweet that, I quote, everywhere Marie Yovanovitch went turned bad. Asked to respond by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, Yovanovitch said, I quote, it's very intimidating. Schiff replied by saying that, I quote, some of us here take witness intimidation very seriously. President Donald Trump told reporters he, and I quote, shouldn't be impeached and believes the inquiry led by the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives is considered a joke all over Washington and all over the world. While delivering remarks on healthcare prices at the White House, Trump also said, I quote, I have freedom of speech just as other people do.
It's totally, nobody's ever had such horrible due process. There was no due process. And I think it's considered a joke all over Washington and all over the world. The Republicans are given no due process whatsoever. We're not allowed to do anything. It's a disgrace what's happening. And nobody's seen anything like it. In the history of our country, there has never been a disgrace like what's going on right now. So you know what? I have the right to speak. I have freedom of speech, just as other people do. But they've taken away the Republicans' rights. And I watched today as certain very talented people wanted to ask questions, and they weren't even allowed to ask questions. Republicans, they weren't allowed to ask questions. It's a very sad thing. I shouldn't be. In fact, I thought last night it ended, because last night I was in Louisiana, where we're going to hopefully elect a great governor, Republican governor, and I was getting off the plane, and they handed me a statement that was just made by the foreign minister and president of the Ukraine. And Ukraine, they came out loud and clear that there was no linkage whatsoever, not even a little bit. And you saw it, you all saw it. I said, oh, well, that ends the impeachment.
Meanwhile, in Santa Clarita, California, detectives struggled Friday to attribute a motive to a school shooting carried out by a Boy Scout, with no obvious alarm bells in his background for the carnage he unleashed. Nathaniel Berhow died Sunday after being in critical condition after shooting himself in the head at the end of a 16th birthday rampage that left two fellow students dead. The puzzle of what led him to open fire at Saugus High School, a short commute from Los Angeles, deepened as a picture emerged of a quiet yet sociable teen who was familiar with guns but had no history of troubled behavior. Our Eagle News team spoke to a survivor and some parents about the horror of the most recent school shooting in the country. Eva Basalyahe reports.
At around 7:30 a.m. on Thursday, a 16-year-old male Saugus High School student opened fire on the campus, injuring 5 students before shooting himself in the head with the last bullet of his .45 semi-auto pistol.
Well, I was waiting outside of school before second period along with all the other classmates. That's mainly when everyone waits out there because it was close to 7:40. And not a lot of kids have a first period, so literally most of the school was out there for second. I was out by the tables next to the quad where the shooting happened, and at first, the first gunshot at the time we all thought was like a balloon popping, so we didn't think anything of it. So we looked over to the area where it came from, and then there was a kid running towards us, and we were like a little confused, and then less than 5 seconds later, we heard 3 more gunshots, so everyone around me just dropped their stuff, and we all ran out to the parking lot.
The shooter was brought to the hospital and listed in grave condition. Of the 5 victims hospitalized, 1 16-year-old female and 1 14-year-old male died later from their injuries.
I can't put it into words, and I know how these other parents must feel because I'm feeling like this and mine are safe. And I don't have anything to worry about tonight. I worry about tomorrow. And I worry about all the days that follow, and it's horrible to say, but I don't want to be them. I don't want to be put in that situation. I feel so horrible for all of the children that had to see their friends go through this. Every single student at this school, whether they were there or not, are affected by this.
Feel helpless. I mean, I'm just sitting there all day long watching the news, you know, looking at Facebook, see all the posts and stuff like that, see how everybody was all upset and wanting to know, do you know where your kid is? You know, any word, you know, and just all day long just sitting there waiting for somebody to say something. It was a tough day.
We've been following it on the news all day, and we just had to bring our energy over here as much as we can because it keeps getting closer and closer to home.
Yeah, no direct ties other than feeling like we're an extended community of here, of everywhere, yeah.
I can't imagine what these families are going through and what the families from all the other school shootings have gone through, and it just gives me the chills, and it makes me terrified and worried at all times.
Well, it's obviously had a huge impact on the community. You know, it's a fairly close-knit community to begin with, and so it's really struck a chord here. My daughter is a senior at another high school in the area, and her high school was on lockdown for the morning. So, you know, she was shaken by that. So I came home from work, and we've spent the rest of the day just together trying to process what was happening.
Brought together by a tragic act, the community draws strength from each other as they try to make sense of the violence that struck their neighborhood.
Know anything about Santa Clarita in this area? We've been going through a lot with all the fires for over the last few years. We've had some friends affected by it, and we find that we all just come together and we're there to help and support them.
Together we stand, divided we fall. We will stay together. This is a community because of the people that make it. It's not a community based upon geographical location. It's a community based on the fact that we are of the same mind, the same heart, the same soul, and we will overcome.
That our support is that we love them. We love them. We're sorry for what happened, and we're hoping that all these kids that went through what they went through today and are strong enough and keep fighting for what they believe, and they have a lot of people behind them to stop this nonsense with gun violence.
This community is very resilient. I mean, just a few weeks ago, several weeks ago, it was struck by wildfires. The community came together to support each other at that point when people were losing their homes, and really supporting the responders, the firefighters and others who helped to address that situation. This community has gone through a lot, and it's going to continue to be resilient and bounce back.
Saugus is we move forward. Like, we take what happens and we learn from it and we move forward. And like I had said previously, it definitely brought us closer. So we're all going to use each other's strengths to like help us through it and like understand the situation and help each other out. But we're a very bounce back community. So we're going to take everything that happens and just move forward from it, recognize what happened, and try and prevent anything else from happening like this again.
As the chill of night descends on the city, residents are undoubtedly keeping watch over their families, hopeful that the warmth of a new day will also bring with it the promise of healing. In Saugus, California, Eva Basayahe, Eagle News, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Eva. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Eagle News. Thank you for watching. I'm Ace Ramirez, 1 with 25.